Well, Solomon, thank you for joining me this morning. Actually, um, I wanted to give you the opportunity to obviously explain kind of your inspiration for your senior independent project, and then hear a little bit from you, just because your actual presentation, which was your musical that you produced and directed and wrote, um, obviously your fingerprints are all over it, but we don't actually get to see you. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to get in front of everyone here. So before we dive in to any specifics, can you just give me a brief overview of the Senior Independent Project from your perspective?
Okay, so exactly what I did was I wrote and composed an original musical between February of 2019, and then I ended up completing the music. The script was completed that November, and then the music was finalized that December. So I wrote and composed, the substance, and then I started casting in October, mid October, before we even had the full script. Just light casting. Then I held actual auditions after my table read in November. We started rehearsal later that month, and then from there, I was directing both the cast and the musicians. Uh, I also during that time was working on different things for marketing the show and set design and costume design. And then February uh, 2020, 14th, 15th, and 16th, we put on uh, three shows. We charged $5 for uh, online admissions. So we had a whole website set up through the charity that we were working with, and we charged $10 at the door. And everything was donations based. A bunch of people donated more than the ticket price, and so we raised just over $300 each night, and then online sales came out to just over $2,000. So we ended up raising just over $3,000.
That's very impressive. Very impressive. So, um, I guess quickly, you might have mentioned this at the beginning, but you started writing the play or the musical in the summer before senior year, correct?
Right. Yes.
Okay. So a pretty long process, almost a full, over a full 6 months. Um, Now you're a guy who, and I've heard you do a chapel talk on this, but for the alumni who are going to be listening to this, it's kind of I think you're an incredible ambassador for the Senior Independent Project, where we're asking people to find their passions that they might not have explored before, or even discover a new passion. So you're a guy who came in self-admittedly as, I'm this athlete, I'm a lacrosse player, that's the only thing I know. You have your background in karate that I love to hear about. But can you just talk about your love for theater, where that came from, and then where it's led you down this path of producing, directing, and writing an entire
Sure.
musical?
Well, exactly like you said. I came into Trinity-Pawling freshman year, completely focused on lacrosse. I was, one of the D1 or bust guys. Like there weren't really any D3 schools that I was interested in besides maybe the top three, and you know, that was all I could think of. That's what I told people. For some reason, I had no problem saying to people that I'm only here for lacrosse, and that got its own backlash, and that was a huge wake up call for me, where I realized that there's a lot of there's a lot of different parts of high school besides school and lacrosse. And so uh, I I had been taking instrumental music, and so we had our winter concert, and I had hurt my hand actually in a soccer game that fall, and then re-injured it in a club lacrosse game. So I wasn't able to play the drums or piano, which I was supposed to be playing that concert. And so my the music teacher, Mr. Kelsey, had me sing "Joy to the World," and so I don't consider myself an actual singer, right? I wouldn't listen to myself sing, but I went up there and I just tried, I tried to make a show out of it, and I tried to, enjoy it and get the audience to have fun. And they had just had auditions for the winter musical that the past week, and I didn't go because I didn't want to. And the director was there. He said, "We're short, a couple guys." After the concert, he was like, "Would you come to rehearsal and be a part of the ensemble?" And I figured, sure, why not? I talked to some of my friends who were older who talked about how they were doing it for college. I was like, this could be a really good thing to put on a resume. And I had no intention of you know majoring in that in the future. And so I did the show that winter, which was the producers, and I loved it. And so I did the next show, which we did uh a series of one acts in the spring, and then ever since then I've done every single show. And my love and passion for it just grew with each year. From sophomore year, then junior year is when I really started to like latch on to it. Like that's when I really loved it. The summer leading up into junior year, I did a show with an independent theater group, and we did a week long rehearsal of an abridged version of Hamilton, and I played Alexander Hamilton. And I think that show and being in that really got me excited for the upcoming year, because I just really enjoyed being, even though it was only a week. And so the three shows we did the next year, we did Harvey, we did 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, and we did the complete works of William Shakespeare. And each show seemed better and more fun than the next. I was like, why would I want to stop doing this just because I'm going to college? Why not try to make a career out of this? Because I'm enjoying it, so why not try to do something for a living that I really enjoy? And that junior year was huge for me, and pushing me towards now being a theater and film major at Vassar.
Absolutely. I've really enjoyed watching you know, watching all your productions, and I would never know that you had very limited background. You got having now written, directed, and produced a whole musical yourself. You're on your fourth year, really being in that environment. So it's very impressive. And
Thank you.
just so everyone knows, you're also, as you're producing this play and directing it, running auditions, running rehearsals, you were also in the school winter play too, correct?
Yes. Yeah. So this senior year, we started rehearsals in November, which was when we were really finishing up our fall show, which was The Curious Incident of the Dark and the Nighttime, which I was in, and a bunch of people that I had casted were in. And then it became especially difficult because The Curious Incident is a much smaller cast. There was only like 8 people. And so it became more difficult once we got to the winter musical, which we did Urinetown, which was the biggest cast we've had in my 4 years, and I think a couple years past that too. We had like 20 plus people, and at least half of them were in my show, whether they were actors or myself or musicians or
Mm-hmm.
tech people. And so we had to work around uh Urinetown rehearsal for my own sake and for my cast's sake. So we did a lot of Saturday rehearsals. We did some rehearsals at the same time as Urinetown in the lobby, and we did some rehearsals after, where we would end Urinetown rehearsal at 9, and then we would start rehearsing for my show until like 10 or 10:30.
Right. So I want to circle back. You mentioned, junior year, you start to really think about this as a potential career opportunity, and you're headed off to Vassar next fall. So taking this specifically, let's talk about the SIP again. But from that experience, whether it's the writing piece or running auditions to producing and directing the play, the musical, excuse me, how do you see that whole experience impacting your 4-year career at Vassar, and then potentially beyond that too?
Well, I think the big thing is knowing like really how much goes into self-producing a show, because like as
Mm-hmm.
much as you can emphasize writing, directing, and composing my own show, right, there's so many other pieces besides that you have to, manage, that are just as simple as, making sure your cast is comfortable and happy with what's going on. That, like, there were little things like it would be too dark backstage where someone couldn't see, right? Even though I
Hmm.
wanted it dark for an effect, you have to adjust to that because you can't have somebody backstage not being able to see, tripping over boxes that are painted black. So,
Right.
but I think that would be, the one thing, especially after Vassar, understanding all the parts, having, I've had my hand on every single aspect of, you know, theater. Like I was doing the choreographing, obviously the directing, the writing, but then I put together the playbills. I designed the playbills. I made the poster myself. I put together an Instagram page. I think I can pull it up. See, Mr. Harf?
Yep, we got it.
Right. So I put together, a whole Instagram page to try for marketing, right? We had the link for the fundraiser because all the proceeds were going to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. So we had a link for that. I was trying to run different, because of the theme of the show and because of the charity that we're working with. I was also trying to, just emphasize self-care,
Hmm.
and being able to take care of yourself mentally. Let me try and get to the next spot. It was, photography was also a big thing
Hmm.
that I got into a lot more while doing this in order to, promote the show. And it was just trying to get people to buy tickets a lot of the time, because when you tell someone that uh, you wrote and composed a show as a high schooler, nobody's really expecting a full-on production. And so I started putting together these cast interviews that you see here with different members of the cast. And I called them meeting the cast, where they're short interviews with cast and musicians, just about their experience with the show and what it means to them, that are all up here on this Instagram page. And then I did here a final reflection at the end of the whole process. So it was really everything, not just theater making, but filmmaking and photography and you know graphic design that I didn't think I'd be doing when I initially thought of this thought to do this.
Hmm. So I'll get the link for the Instagram and put it either at the bottom of this interview, or I'll include it so that the alumni who are watching this can obviously
Okay.
check that out, because I think that's also a big part of your entire project too. We'll wrap it up now, but before we do, two questions. So we'll go with the hard hitter first. What was the most challenging part of this whole project?
For me, it might have been the whole marketing part. What do people like? What do they want to see? And what's going to get them? What's going to get them in the doors? What's going to get them? To give their money to see a completely high school run show, made,
Hmm.
produced. And I think what I learned most from that is, the emphasis on the charity. I tried to make it about the charity as much as I could from the beginning, but especially when I was marketing it, you have to emphasize that the that the audience just coming to the show is doing something good, whether it's coming to the show for them. The goal of the show was to, you know, help people before even raising money, but it was, so that somebody in the audience would see what's on stage and feel like they relate to that, or feel like someone they know needed to see that. So I think, that, you know, marketing point was definitely the most challenging for me. And also, you know, it was I've always, you know, really loved to make music, but I think the writing of it specifically was hard, having to, you know, dictate the notes, you know, from my piano, because I can't really read music too well. So
Hmm.
having to put everything on the line sheets was definitely a challenge for me.
And then, final question: what was the most rewarding part of this whole experience?
Definitely just watching it. Like I was backstage with the podium on the script, you know, making sure that everything ran smoothly, that everyone was on their cues, and I would go out to help move set pieces during the show. But there were points like that we had worked on over and over again, and points that I had, you know, choreographed after, you know, never choreographing anything in my life, and then seeing them come alive on stage. Like if you watch the show, the opening to act two, and you'll know it when you see it, like watching that from backstage, like was amazing. And then of course, like seeing the end of the show and having everyone go out and bow, like watching it all come together from behind the curtain was just um, amazing.
I'm sure. Well, it was. I having watched it live, it was one of the best productions I've seen in my time at Trinity-Pawling. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Anything? Any? I don't know if you mentioned this already, but the specific charity again was what?
The charity was the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And so when I was, the show went through a lot of different changes, and it wasn't always about, you know, that topic. But once I kind
Hmm.
of settled it, you know, in the writing process in the summer, that that's kind of where the story was going. Then, you know, I started researching different charities that I wanted to become involved, and I found the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention because, you know, they put a real emphasis on hope. And, you know, sometimes unfortunately it doesn't go the way that, you know, we try to get it to go. And so there's a avenue for recovery after that. And they're real, you know, open about where all their proceeds went. And so I got in contact with the Hudson Valley representative in August, and I sent her my script and my music once it was finished, and she looked it over. She gave me some pointers on, you know, what really, you know, is okay to show, and what really will connect with an audience that needs, you know, that needs to see something like that. And, you know, she was really helpful in all of that. And so she helped me set up the website for the donations. And I definitely couldn't have done it without her.
That's great. I think you mentioned that the word hope, and I think obviously will people who are watching this won't have seen the show yet, hopefully. Um, but I think that without giving too much away, you nailed the dark side of it, but also the hope is absolutely threaded throughout, and certainly comes through. So you did a fantastic job in that sense.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us, Solomon, and I hope everyone enjoys the show.